This is fucking shit.
I don't want my name on this.
I don't want my name on this. You're not releasing this. You go back in that studio and you record something worth putting the name Metallica on. Welcome to another episode from Takedowns to Breakdowns with A&P, and today we're here to talk about Metallica's 72 seasons. By the way, you know what 72 seasons means?
What?
Those are the seasons that you go through as a human being until you turn 18. You go through 72 seasons. That's pretty clever.
Pretty clever, yeah.
I would say that that's the cleverest thing about this album. But anyways, that's just my opinion. Now, you haven't heard the album.
Not the full album. I've heard like 2 songs. And to be honest, I wasn't impressed.
The album is like 75 minutes. You heard like not even a third of
exactly,
the album.
But I heard enough for me to be like, I could listen to better things.
So let me start off by saying that the reason why you haven't heard the album, is it because Metallica doesn't really ring a bell for you anymore? Like, you're kind of like, you moved on beyond... Like, what is it for a young guy like you who listens to metal, who listens to a lot of music in general, to not really be excited about listening to the new Metallica record?
Because it's a new Metallica record. I mean, Metallica, I feel like they've not overstayed their welcome, but, I mean, we did the single when the single came out, and I wasn't impressed, and then I listened to a song after, and I wasn't impressed. So for me, guys my age, I was going to say kids my age, but I'm technically an adult. Guys my age, we have a short attention span. If you don't grab us in the first couple minutes of a song, or a couple seconds of a song, then we're out of there. You know, and it's with not only music, it's content in general. I mean, people post stuff on TikTok, and they'll have things on the bottom doing, like, gameplay, just so it keeps your focus. Because the one thing on the top won't keep your focus. You know, that's just the thing with the generation now. So...
I don't think you're also... Your generation...
And the generation after mine is the same.
But I don't think you guys are also invested in Metallica as my generation is, because we feel like we've been there from the beginning. So it's a lot easier for... my generation and the
to
generation
give them more
before
of that
me.
Chance.
Yeah, because we feel like we're there. Like, we've been invested in the band for a long period of time. You guys, no, I mean, you came along like already in the twilight of their career, so it's a little bit different. And I'm not saying guys your age are not huge Metallica fans. I'm sure there's a bunch of them out there. But I think it's a harder sell maybe on a new audience versus the already existing
It's not
audience.
only Metallica, it's, like I said, any other form of media.
But also legacy bands in general. Like, you're also not you're not big into Iron Maiden. You're not big into... I mean, you like Judas Priest, but...
I enjoy Judas Priest and I enjoy Iron Maiden because I've heard enough of their stuff that, like, when we go to concerts, I can sing along and I actually know more than 50% of their set. I'm not saying that's not the case for Metallica, but I just enjoy Iron Maiden's sound and Judas Priest sound because that's the stuff I started with, right? So I have more of a kind of connection. You know, Metallica came a little bit later for me.
Yeah, you didn't start listening to Metallica early on when you started getting into metal. But anyways, I was just interested to see why it doesn't resonate with you. But regardless of that, the album has been, I was going to say, has been having mixed reviews, but I honestly don't think that's accurate either, because I think there's been a lot more negative than positive. The part about the positive that really puzzles my mind is when I see musicians praising it. Now, a lot of the musicians that I've seen praising it are musicians that perhaps would love to be called up to be on a tour with Metallica.
Yeah. So
I don't know if they're really being honest about the praise or they're just pumping tires.
Yeah, I don't take those as honest opinions unless they're like... I will never take a band's opinion on a band that is either same size or bigger. I will never take that band's opinion when it comes to that artist. Reason why is because of that. It's more of a you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Unless the band is pulling the 180, doing the other thing, then I'll kind of be like, oh, okay, well, this band said this band said this. Now there's...
Okay, but then on the reverse side of that is the smaller bands that I've seen a lot of people from smaller bands criticizing the album. So are they criticizing the album because they're a smaller band and they're just fed up with the clout that Metallica gets? Maybe. Or they're being honest? Because the same thing can be said about both sides there.
That's very true. I can also say that I think the smaller bands just think they don't have a chance of going on that tour, so they might as well
be honest.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Why pump the tires that we can never ride along when we can be honest with the people around and say it's not good.
So, like I said, I'm not going to say that there's been mixed reviews because I think that there's been more negativity than positivity about this album. I'm one of those that I discovered Metallica early on in their career. I've been listening to them for a very long time. And I don't tend to judge an album based on what the previous records were all about. Like, I don't look at... I saw somebody saying that... I've read a lot of comments, and I saw some people saying that, wow, this doesn't hold up to Kill 'Em All. What band is going to release an album that's going to hold up to their debut album? When that debut album happened, like, I don't know, 30 years ago or whatever the fuck it happened, like, probably even more than 30 years. I can't remember the date of the release for Kill 'Em All, but it was in the 80s, so it's a long time ago.
Almost 40 then.
So, yeah, so that comment, for me, doesn't add any value to the discussion. I always look at the albums individually. Like, how this, in a vacuum, how does this album sound? Is this album good on its own? If the name Metallica wasn't slapped across the top, would I listen to it? Would I enjoyed it? If the band's name was Five Finger Death Punch, would I like the album? You know what I mean? So I like to look at records from that point of view, not based on how the previous records sound or how 10 records ago they sounded. None of that to me is relevant. Because, you know, everything should be judged based on where it stands currently, not on what was done before. I don't go to a restaurant and say, well, this meal wasn't good compared to the last meal that I had here. I'll say either the meal was good or it was bad. I'm not really thinking about 2 meals ago or 10 meals ago. That's just me.
But I don't fully agree with you on that. I feel like I used to kind of agree with you on that, but now I also feel like when bands put out new stuff and it's not good, your first instinct is, wow, this is not good. Their previous stuff was good. What happened?
I know, but in Metallica's case, the previous stuff when was the last time... One can make an argument. I'll make the argument for Hardwired to Self-Destruct. That album was actually really good. Really good, not compared to Ride the Lightning, not compared to Master of Puppets. It's really good compared to the previous records.
But the thing is, that's when I won't compare, is if the album is good. If the album is good by itself, there's no reason to compare. It's a different album, and it's a good album by itself.
I would have listened to that album now. I would listen to the album 10 years ago.
Exactly, but when an album is bad, that's when you start thinking that, wow, this album was bad. And if I was to rank it compared to the last couple albums, it's bad, so I wouldn't rank it good. But if it was a good album by itself, I'm not going to compare it to other albums because by itself, it's a good album. If it didn't have Metallica on it, and I was still enjoying it,
I feel that when you go into a record, specifically for a legacy band like Metallica, you almost have to forget about everything that they've done and then just look at that album with an open mind. And does it stand on its own? Is it a good record on its own? After you made up your mind about the record itself, then you can bring in comparisons and say, wow, you know, I like this record, but... that to me is okay, and that's fair. If you come in already with a mindset of, I like this one, I hated this one, I like this one, I hated this one better not sound like that one, I think you're already skewing your viewpoint on what the album is all about. It's like the fans that are coming in saying, I'm gonna, like, I see people say this all the time, first single of the album, this is gonna be album of the year. You heard one fucking song on the record. Like, how can you make a statement like that? To me, when you make statements like that, it just shows how much of a fan you are and how less objective you've become about what the band is doing. Once you make a comment like that, anything you say after that, I'm completely ignoring it. Because it's not coming from a place of truth. It's coming from a very personal perspective that doesn't really hold any reason whatsoever. You cannot make that kind of a comment and be taken seriously, at least not for... I mean, you can make the comment, it's a free country, you can do whatever you want, but I'm not going to take you seriously when I see people making comments like that. So I tend to look at the album first and foremost on its own, then after the listening experience, and then after making up my mind, then I look back and say, wow, this was not as good as this one, or this was not as good as that one. I find that having that approach allows me to better grasp the album and have a different understanding for the album. If I come in with preconceived ideas, then it skews the whole perception of this record. So for me, this album, for those of you wondering out there, because I didn't cover it on the channel, I didn't do an album review. First of all, I don't think that Metallica needs me to pump their tires or needs my review for that matter. I'd rather review a band like Underask or Atavistia than Metallica or Megadeth, because to be honest with you, I just don't really care enough to review those albums. They don't care enough about me. I don't care about them. it's kind of like, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
And they don't need it. And I feel like to record a review that just for the views, because that review would get a lot of views, it's not really why I do it to begin with. And I'm not going to spend my time to put the effort of recording an album review just for the clicks, just for the views and that kind of stuff. So certain bands, I completely skip through the reviews, or I decide not to do a review just because it doesn't bring any pleasure to me. It's not fun to talk about a Metallica. I'd rather do a video like this talking about the album with you than do a review. Now, my take on the record, I didn't like the record, but I didn't like the singles. So it's not like I went into the album thinking that this was going to be great. I didn't like the singles. Now, this is why I didn't like the album. The drumming is atrocious. Not that I was expecting the drumming to be high quality. I'm not a big fan of Lars. I honestly feel like he's the least qualified member of Metallica.
I feel like we've made this statement before.
Dude, like, when you look, you can make arguments on all of the band members. Perhaps Trujillo being the one you can make the least argument. Rob Trujillo is an amazing bass player. So it's hard to find one better. You know what I mean? So I think he's the one that's perhaps on a pedestal.
He's the one exception.
He's probably the exception to the rule. The other guys who can comment, they have their strengths, they have their weaknesses, right?
But they bring their own to the table.
Yeah, but Lars, I always felt like he's in the band because he started the band, but he's not in the band because he was a great drummer. You know what I mean? And they've always been a band that perhaps their strongest band member, musicianship wise, has always been the bass player. From the beginning, from Cliff Burton all the way until now. So, the drumming is really bad. I honestly, the snare on this fucking album is like, it snares a Russ. Like, give it a rest. Use something else. Fuck. I don't need to listen to the snare. Like, the snare on this album is the complete opposite of the bass in Unjustice for All. But I kind of wanted it to be that way.
Yeah.
I wish bands released albums in the future with the option for you to do the mixing and mastering, so you can add more bass or remove less drums. How cool would that be?
So
like you'd be your own producer.
So you want bands to literally upload the raw files and then
let me do the mixing, and then I can get the album the way I like it. I think there's a market for that.
No, there is.
I honestly think there's a market for that.
Because then people can also make they can also make it instrumental by just taking out the vocals.
And
or whatever.
okay, so that takes me to the next point. This should have been an instrumental album. Because I'm tired of James Hetfield's those are not lyrics, those are grunts.
And
dude, it's the same it's like he's saying blah 10 times in one single song.
Yeah. It's like Creed.
Kind of.
Yeah, because
just without his arms wide open.
Yeah.
I just, like, in this album, it's almost like he was writing songs, and then it's like, fuck, I don't know what to say here. Let me just do one of my grunts. And that's what he was doing. He was doing that, like, ad nauseum throughout the whole album. It was like he was recording a sex session, and then he used some of those noises and put it into the lyrics. I honestly feel like the Metallica lyrics, and some people say that there's no such thing as a good breakup, but a breakup or a negative period in your life makes for great music, for great lyrics, for great music. Look at Taylor Swift. She breaks up with somebody before an album so that she can have material. So people say that, like, it's a very well-known fact that musicians say that a breakup or a negative time creates great music. I honestly feel since he stopped drinking, and I'm not. I want to be clear here.
God.
I want to be clear here. I'm not promoting him to go back on the bottle. That's not what I'm promoting here. The guy just came out of rehab. That's not what I'm promoting
But
he made better music when he was on the juice. Like, I'm just saying. Like the lyrics were better. The singing was better. The music all around was better. Man, when him and Mustaine was like fucking... The music was way better.
Maybe quitting cold turkey wasn't the... wasn't the move.
I don't know. Maybe that was... Sansom had his hair. He had his booze. I'm just seeing what everybody else is thinking.
This is all jokes.
I'm just seeing what everybody else is thinking. People are not saying it, but people are thinking it. I'm telling you right now.
Look,
so
I enjoy his vocal approach. I like the way his voice sounds. Right?
Me too.
But I enjoy it when he's actually saying something.
And I don't mind
But that's why
I don't mind it. But when you're doing it like fucking constantly.
That's also the thing. That's why we like Orbit Culture so much, because the clean vocals in Orbit Culture sound like him
without that,
and also he's actually saying shit. So it sounds like him back in the day. So that's why like I feel like,
and I don't mind that style live. Live works really well. But on a fucking studio record, like you're doing that all the time, like what the fuck? You ran out of ideas. Anyways, that's my second beef outside of the drums. And then the album maybe has I'm going to be generous here, 6 memorable riffs. That's it. The rest is just the riffs on loop. Maybe one is a little bit faster, sounds just like the other that was a little bit slower. Maybe they change one note at the end of the riff, but it sounds just like the other riff before. It's almost like when you listen to a Sabaton album and you can see all the riffs were complete rip-offs of other bands' riffs, just a little bit faster, a little bit slower.
It's almost like a Sabaton song where you realize that riff is from another Sabaton song.
That too.
Like
that too. Just
reinvented, slowed down, or like has a lick here and there that kind of switches it up.
So I felt like the album...
It's like putting a comb over on a bald spot, right?
I just felt like the album overall, to me, was kind of... Blah. Like, it's kind of mid. At best, mid. And it's one of those records that if it didn't have Metallica slapped all over it, nobody would care.
Oh, yeah. It wouldn't
nobody would listen.
Day.
Nobody would listen to this because it's just... In the world of today where we have so much music to listen to, there's so much stuff out there. This album, if it was released by, I don't know, throw in a name of a band that nobody's ever heard of. I'm trying to think of one. Like Raider, for example. If Raider had released this album, or Invicta had released this album, bands that are underground that nobody's heard of, nobody would care. Nobody would be talking about it.
No one would be talking about it, but the people who know the band would be mad.
No,
so I think
this is a mid album for a band like Metallica, but no, never mind. It's a mid album regardless of who the band is.
Regardless of who the band is, dude.
Yeah.
Even Smashing to Pieces, if they release this,
I'd
be like, guys, this is shit, but you guys make like less shit. So like, try making less.
I was trying to make something good out of this, but it's impossible.
But the thing is, like, I want to listen to the full thing just so I can say that I've listened to the full album and that I have my own fully opinion. I'm saying this now. I've only listened to the singles, basically. And I wasn't a fan, so I decided to opt out. Now, will I tag myself back in? Sure, I'll listen to the album just so I can have that full. I don't like it, but the amount of like the percentage I'm in, I wasn't enjoying it. So I was like, okay, would I rather sit through the rest of this and not enjoy my time, or I can go listen to a band that I enjoy my time with? But I'm gonna have to strap in. And finish the bottle.
It's one of those records that maybe it's worth. I think it's worth listening once, like you said, so you can have a formed opinion,
exactly,
and you can know exactly what other people are talking about. That's the reason why I didn't like the singles, but I listened to it so that when people are criticizing it or other people are commenting, I can also have an opinion.
Well, that's why I haven't
have a formed opinion.
That's why I haven't said much about the album in this video. I've just said. I agree with you in some of these aspects just because of what I heard. Those aspects kind of cross over in those songs, but I can't give you the full opinion. But to be honest with you, I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I feel like I need to listen to it.
I think at this point, what Metallica should do, and I'm not saying, listen, who am I to tell them what to do? But as a fan, because I still consider myself a Metallica fan. As a fan, you have such a great, deep discography. Now, one can argue that this album is not as good as that album. That's all fucking debatable. But you have such a deep discography. If the issue is creating music... I mean, if the issue is just creating music because you want to create music, that's one thing. But I think they should take some time and honor some of the older records. Do some legacy tours. Like, do a tour where you play, like, Ride the Lightning from start to end, or Master of Puppets from start to end. Do, like, a Master of Puppets, like, tour, or whatever.
You make your money, and you don't have to create new stuff. You still have your old stuff. Technically, you could do this for many years. You have so many albums that you could go year after year with, this is the Ride the Lightning album, tour, and all this stuff. Like,
now, if you want to scratch the itch, the creative itch, and create music, because now Lars said that his goal is one day Metallica to be like U2. I don't know if that's a goal to have, because if I look at the discography of U2, it's kind of like fucking decline too. It's not like they're as good now as they were when they released Joshua Tree. Let's just keep it real here. I don't know if that's the band that you want to aspire to as far as legacy is concerned.
I think Metallica is...
you should look more at Queen or something. Yeah. But anyways, let me just finish off my train of thought for this video with this. I think one of the problems with Metallica is the same problem that every big band has. which is they surround themselves with a bunch of yes men.
I thought you were gonna say they just don't know when to quit.
No, that too. But I think it's just you need to have a producer. You need to have a guy in your corner that is not there for you. He's there for the end product. So that when you're doing shit, he's going to be the first guy to say, this is fucking shit.
I don't want my name on this
I don't want my name on this. You're not releasing this. You go back in that studio and you record something worth putting the name Metallica on. The problem is there's nobody... First of all, they would never hire somebody...
To do that.
Because they're Metallica.
And also, no one would ever do that because why would you not want your name on a Metallica record?
Exactly. Why would you want to get paid? Why would you want to have that recognition? Because that's going to help your career and so forth and so forth. There's not many guys out there that could do that to Metallica. Rick Rubin is one of them that I think could do that. Because he's massive, so it's not like he needs Metallica, but he could go there and say, this is shit, we're not doing this, whatever. But I think they've become the band that self-implodes from within. Because they just have massive egos, especially Lars, massive egos. They control their surroundings, they control who surrounds them. And I think the only way, as a band, and not just for Metallica, but any band, the only way you can improve and release quality material is when you go to the studio, you trust the people that are there for you. And trusting the people is also empowering the people for them to have the right and the ability to say, no, we're not doing this. This is how we're going to do it. This is how this works. Because if you go there and you're hiring them just to move knobs up and down and record your shit, then what's the point?
The only feedback you're getting is your own feedback.
They're just going to say what they know that you want to hear. So I don't think you're doing yourselves any favors whatsoever. I honestly feel if I was Metallica, I would and at the moment of going to the studio, I would want people there who would push back on me, who would criticize me, who would push back, who would make me feel perhaps uncomfortable so that I can get the best out of me and not release what I think it's the best of me when it's just mediocre at best. That's my take. Fair enough?
Yeah, fair enough. To be honest with you, when it comes to Metallica, I think what all they need to do now is just release one more album, and it needs to be the saving grace. Because you don't want to go out like this, one more album, and then just call it quits. Don't call it quits on the band, but call it quits on making new shit and just
release singles.
Or just release singles.
Yeah, you release a song here, release a song there, whatever.
You don't have to make an album,
especially now one that's over 70 minutes.
Exactly, and you can do tours based on older albums and throw in one of the newer songs here and there as kind of like the encore. Oh, here's a new single we worked on. Yeah. Boom. People are gonna go watch you no matter what you play, and especially if it's the older stuff. You'll actually sell out even faster. And that's the only thing I have to say. For me, Metallica was I saw them live, and I'm good. I scratched that off my bucket list. They're obviously a legendary band and a band that I enjoy listening to their older stuff. Being is that I got into them, not late into my metal journey, but later into my metal journey, and I do enjoy their music. But for me, seeing them once was enough. Seeing their decline is not fun. At least the decline of music in my eyes. I definitely need to listen to the rest of the album. So far, I'm not enjoying it, but maybe I'll be that one guy who's like, it's not that bad, but I don't think so.
All right. On that note, guys, hit us up in the comment section your thoughts on the latest Metallica album. Yay or nay? Did you enjoy it? You hated it? Whatever it is that you feel, use the comment section and hit us up. Let us know your thoughts. We'll see you at the next one.
See ya.